the opportunity to hear from the county executive about what's going on in the fall and the spring, some of our initiatives we're rolling out that year. I'm the communications director. I'm Scott Salata. And hello.
And the radio.
And yeah.
I listen all the time.
Yeah. And we would just request, if you have any questions, just throw them on an index card in the back. It helps us keep track of, as we follow up, we can keep your email address, phone number, put it down, and if we have to follow it up, we'll have the contact information for you, have a phone number, that kind of thing. I can't think what else. I'll give you my business card if you need it. My executive is here as well. And we're live tonight. We're going to be broadcasting live over the internet. So,
which is why we're not doing a circle.
Yeah.
Because we have to kind of stick with that.
Yeah, because there are people watching from home. We give folks the opportunity. Hi. We give folks the opportunity to, watch from home. So, but again, fairly informal. County executive is going to give a brief overview of what's going on with the budget, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for coming.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for coming. It seems the better we get at this, the less people show up. I like the personal touch, but the reality is we can see everybody online now. And I like to have the hardy souls come out. And it's really good. It's been a very successful effort trying to get across to people what we're doing. I ran for this job for a reason. I wanted to fix this county. I have 2 sons and a grandson and a granddaughter on the way. And it saved my life and an ability, I thought, to convey some of the life experiences I've had, turn them into something positive for a county that was really taking it on the chin, as we all knew. The one thing we recognized on day one that, I'm not sitting down, that's for sure. On day one, we had some serious issues in Rockland County. My 3rd week in office, we were $42,000 away from defaulting. That's how serious this got. Now, we had $750 million budget. So being $42,000 away from being broke is pretty bad. So we recognized it was critical. And I was very lucky to have brought on some very smart people who were not politically motivated. My chief of staff, or deputy county executive, was a retired lieutenant colonel with a master's in public administration. And we worked together in order to change the way our organization was working. We had 25 silos in county government. It was a bunker mentality when we came in, and we had to get people to understand how an organization should work. And we recognized that the clock was running. We weren't going to wait for 2 years to deal with some of the compelling issues, such as a deficit bond, which is going to generate a $13.5 million payment every year. So we weren't going to wait till then, because by then, you're not going to generate the savings you want to deal with, things you want to do to make sure it works well. Some of the things that have happened after some work, we had a 40% change, and this is never talked about in the newspapers. Everybody says you're laying people off. We had a 40% change out in leadership of Rockland County in the first 6 months. Very quietly done, but it was accomplished. I wanted to make sure people understood if you're going to work with me, understand I ride that bike very fast. That's just my nature. We need to change. We need to do things very rapidly because we had some serious issues. And the team I have, I'm very happy with. So we compressed our government. We combined departments, something I talked about as a legislator. We got all those things done. Now, right now, Rockland County government for 2 years in a row has been running in the black. Now, that is something that was not going on because we had a $138 million deficit. Clearly, we're not running in the black. We were losing money. We're bleeding. There's another way of putting it. We just got back on my proposed budget this year. Last year's budget was under the cap. This year's budget, we sent up to the controller again, and he affirmed 2 basic things. Revenues and expenditures made sense. There was no issue at all with the projected revenues, projected expenses, which anybody who does a budget even at home understands. That's kind of important. If you're wrong on either of those, you got a problem. So we're very happy to hear that. The controller made a couple of comments in there. One was, despite the fact we were driving the deficit down, and just so everybody understands this, the $96 million bond, essentially we put the deficit on a credit card. We still have to pay it back. You'll have some politicians say, oh, our deficit is only $42 million. Yes, on the books it's $42 million. That's the leftover from 138, but you still need to pay that back. You just borrowed that money to a credit card. That remaining $42 million already is down below 30 in 2 years. We've shaved that deficit down by $30 million, and the controller said, look, you have to have a plan for that. I said, well, with all due respect, we're doing it, but you know something, you're right. So we gave him a plan. make sure we comply with the controller's assessment, which is very important. You know, his oversight is very important. But what we did this year for this 16 budget, the budget is $43 million less than last year. That is the largest decrease in government in the history of Rockland. It has never happened. That is how much we have reduced the size of government. You hear a lot of talk about consolidation and reduction. In fact, the numbers are there. We've reduced government by that much money. Sins of the past, like I said, we've already knocked the deficit down by 30%. Something else has happened. The word surplus and the word Rockland could never been mentioned in the same sentence for some period of time. We had surpluses 2 years in a row. We had a surplus in 14, we have a projected surplus in 15. Right now, we're on scale to get a surplus in 16, a small one. But again, we're turning around. We've had 3 bond upgrades in 14 months. We have a credit positive report, a positive outlook on our bond ratings. So things are going very well in that area. I know everybody heard about, I mentioned earlier, we had to pay this back. $138 million deficit, we had to pay this back, right? There was suggestions that we have a separate line in the tax bill because, you know, frankly, I could have came in and said, not my fault, I inherited this. Let's put a separate line in the bill, let people will pay it down. That would have been the equivalent of about a 13 to 18% property tax increase on your county line. And just so we understand, the county line is the smallest part of your bill. I don't want anybody to have a heart attack here today. The county line is about 7% of your total property taxes. It's important, but I just want to put it in context. It would be unfair to mislead you. But that's what we were looking at in order to do that. But what we recognize, just like we all recognize with our budgets, if we save a penny now, it's a penny saved forever. And that's what we did. We started from January 2014 doing just that. When the numbers came in this year, when we had to make the decision, because the first payment is now January of 16, we had to make that first $13.5 million payment for every percent of your property tax increase is $1 million. So $13.5 million is about a 13% tax increase. The numbers are coming in, and we realized things were really looking very positive. Frankly, I was very surprised. And we were able to craft a budget out that took that massive payment of deficit, or debt now. We're able to pay that back without this separate line for only, and plus in our budget itself, for an added $4 a month. That's what it's going to cost. Now, I know, I want to stay under the cap. I don't want to, have tax increases. But I feel very proud of the fact that we took a massive amount of money that we had to pay back. And because of efficiencies that we've been establishing in government, we have knocked this down to less than $50 a year. And we'll be done. We're now on a path to prosperity. And this is really very, very critical. Summit Park. This is a very frustrating situation for me personally because as a retired NYPD officer, I understood the angst and the fear our workers had when the decision was made 3 years ago, believe it or not, to sell Summit Park. And when I came into office in 14, I went up to Building A, spoke with the folks and said, look, I understand, I can't say I'm in your chair, I get it. It would be like the captain of a precinct coming in to see me and saying, you know something, we're privatizing the police department. My first reaction, my job, my salary, my pension, my benefits, my mortgage, my grocery bill, my family. That's just what you're going to react to. And I approached people that way. The idea here was to sell the facility to a meritorious buyer who would take over the operation, hire as many people as possible. We felt he would because he was looking to get a CSCA private union, keep the folks who were there in decent care, and not disrupt them at the latter year with the less than they needed. What happened was, and I'm under a non-disparagement agreement, so I just tell the story and you can figure it out, and people figure it out very quickly. We signed a contract with this gentleman from Sympathicare back in July of 2014 with a closing date by December 31st, 14. He told us in the fall he could not make the closing. Okay. The LDC, which is control of the sale, this is not being controlled by the legislature or the executive branch, Then LDC was created to control the sale because having politicians involved in this is not a good thing. It's just not really wise to do. So we had an entity separate and apart from government handling it. And the legislature's job was to support whatever happened through legislation, resolutions, things of that nature. My job as the county executive was to provide operational support for the whole effort. Very simple. They gave this gentleman until September 30th of this year to close. Now, the problem I had, and again, I'm being very clear, that LD just did a great job in putting this all together, but that was a very long period of time. It was 9 additional months. It also put us in a situation where I had been very clear, we were not going to be in the business in 2016. We can't afford it. Think about, we were losing $12 to $18 million a year, $1 million and change a month. We couldn't afford it anymore. And I really just wanted, let's just sell it and move on. That's my hope was. The closing date was September 30th. On September 16th, the buyer came to the legislative meeting and announced, I can't guarantee the safety of the patients. I need a month. Okay. A little by surprise, that caught us by surprise, to say the least. Said, okay, fine. We got a hold of them afterwards. So I'll tell you what, we'll give you 6 weeks. A month is October 15th. We'll give you the 31st of October. We'll operationally support you at cost to get you over this problem you have under one condition. You come down on the 30th, sign the closing, bring your check. Now that's pretty, I think that's pretty fair, considering he signed a contract July the year before. September 29th at 9 o'clock at night, we got an email from his attorneys terminating the agreement. Now that's a pretty clear word, terminating the agreement. The next day we show up at the closing. He didn't show up. We waited 5 days. We announced that we were going to apply for closure. We did. On the 15th, he came back. Around the 15th, he came back with we applied for the close. We got approved about the 23rd. After that, he came back and he says, I have a cash sale. There was only one problem with his cash sale. He was on News 12. I can answer your question. Do you have $32 million in your pocket? No. No? Neither does he. You want to know why I know that? Did I step back in the right spot, Mike? The reason why I know that is because on News 12, he was asked. He said, I only have 20% of the money. He spoke to a legislator twice who said, I don't have the money. I'll have it by the end of the year. Here is the problem, and this is where it comes down to making a decision. Talk is cheap. Everywhere else but government. Government is expensive. We can do two paths. We can go a path of closure, a path of negotiation. We cannot do both. DOH, Department of Health, says you can either move to close, you can talk, but you can't do both. Okay. The gentleman came back to us and said, well, you have to pull your closing plan. I said, no, we're not going to do that. Because we were operating under a very tight schedule. We were lucky enough to have Dr. David Freed, who headed up Nyack Hospital. He's regionally recognized in his field to help us get through this process of moving these patients to new facilities, which is very difficult. So I was not about to stop that, because if I stop that, we have to fund Summer Park Nursing Home for 2016. I was not going to inflict a property tax increase on this county of 19 to 29%. So when you hear this conversation from some legislators, why don't you keep negotiating? Because the negotiations are over. He's been rejected by the LDC. He has, by his own admissions, has no money. What am I waiting for? There's only one thing I can do, is delay it and hit you folks with a tax increase of 20% plus, which I was not going to do. That's called making a decision. So that's where it is. It's unfortunate. It was not what we wanted. I would rather call it regrettable at this point, because we by necessity, we have folks who obviously are going through a process and a change in their life, which they really should not be going through. But you know something? I will tell you now, your county government expended every effort to facilitate a sale of that facility, to do the right thing by the people who are residents there and by the workers who were employed there. Unfortunately, it did not work out, and that's sad. The hospital right now has no patients in it at all. The Summer Park Nursing Home had about 200, now it's down to 60. We are on schedule to close by the end of the year, and that's where it stands. Now, the other sad part of this is that when the buyer pulled out and caused our decision to close, that hits about a $7 million hit in cash, closing costs. We have post-employment benefits, unemployment, things of that nature, about $7 million. So that kind of killed any concept of getting under the tax cap. But I'm telling you now, you know something, if we didn't have to deal with that, nor the sins of the past, the money that was borrowed, we'd be talking giving tax cuts right now for county property taxes. But when things will get weird to get to. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to looking to sell the same building, which is right opposite the Alice Patterson building on New Hampstead Road. Now that we were looking to do in 2017, but with this happening, it had to ramp this up. You'll hear people talk about one-shot revenues. This is a one-shot revenue. We freely admitted it. But we have one-shot expenses this year. The unemployment benefits, they're 1 year. So we thought it made more sense to do a one-shot revenue, which is the sale of the same building, to deal with a one-shot cost. Why would I double tax or triple tax you? Why would I increase your taxes to pay for something I'm going to pay for in 2016? So that was the approach we took. It seemed logical to me, but some folks don't see it that way. But something, the reality is the controller understands what we're doing. He commented on it, just make sure the sale goes through during a year, and that's what we're moving towards. It's a prime piece of real estate, obviously. One of the issues also is the Sheriff's Department. Now, you've heard a lot of conversation about this, and what I'm looking to do here is every department was asked to come in with a 5 to 10% reduction in their department for 2016, because we knew this year's going to be tough. Last year was hard. This year's coming up was even harder. But once we got these 2 years dealt with, we would be on the way to the right place. We'd be turning the corner in Rockland County. Every department did this. The Sheriff's Department gave me their proposed budget. It was $1.1 million higher than last year. We set it back. Not going to work. Give us a budget that's 5% less than last year. We asked for the reductions. It was refused. The request was made by the Sheriff's Department to the finance people to make the cuts for them. I said, make sure you document that, because no other department head has been allowed to do that. So we did. We made the cuts to bring them down to last year's budget, 2015 budget. What we decided to do is, given what's going on right now especially, and looking at some security surveys that were done in Rockland County in the past, we have some significant liability issues when it comes to security. People don't feel safe when they come to our buildings. We have employees who are on probation, for example. People from probation who come in to visit probation offices typically, obviously, could have some issues. Workplace violence is not unusual. You just saw what happened in Paris. These are crazy times we live in. So my thinking was, based upon my background as a law enforcement executive and commander, having 10 years as a senior security consultant for a systems firm, I have some understanding of private security. We felt the best way to do this right now is to utilize our sheriff's deputies in our buildings, in our parks, to protect the people who visit, who work in county property. It seems the time is right, not to mention the fact that pretty much every municipality we have has that situation. When you go to the county buildings now, if you go to the county courthouse, well, it's actually a state courthouse, when you walk where the county clerk is, if you go straight in, you have the officers there, you have the conveyor belt, you have the magnetometer. You walk to the right, you have the county clerk, but there's no protection whatsoever. This is illogical. So my thought was to do this. And you know something, I feel very strongly, this is something the sheriff can do with some scheduling. This is all I believe is necessary. We have professional law enforcement people in our employment. Why are we not using them to do their core mission? I did not fund the mission. I did not fund the mounted patrol. I think having a mounted officers is a wonderful thing. It's not critically necessary. That's my opinion, my own background. I feel that we have transport officers who are retired officers who are armed. We have our mounted unit. We have our sheriff's road patrol. We have detectives whose caseload is very light. Good guys and gals, but the caseload is very light. And we have specialty units. you look at all those 5 components, to me, it's very doable to come up with a scheduling issue where you could have people who are armed, who are professionals, at entrances in our buildings, and the parks obviously could be patrolled by a deputy sheriff or road patrol. So that was a thought I had. The sheriff and I are not agreeing on that, but that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. And that's where we are right now. So that's part of the budget. Now what that did is we're not bringing back our unarmed security. That's a $1.5 million savings to taxpayers. So in my view, we're going to heighten our ability to protect you, the visitors and the employees who come to Rockland County government and locations, and we'll do it with a savings of $1.5 million in the budget. State mandates obviously have been an issue. This year, every year, I'll leave you one thought. The state of New York has a property tax cap, and I think it's a great idea. My background's in private sector. We try to deliver product at 0 increase, but 2%, that's fine too, all right? But here's the thing. The property tax cap is tied to the consumer price index. Now let's be honest here. The reason why your taxes at county government go up is not because of the cost of bread or milk. It goes up because of state mandates. The state mandates, the 9 mandates that make up 90% plus of your property tax levy. Now you know Medicaid is almost 2/3 of your property tax levy. One item is almost 2/3 of the entire property tax levy. Those mandates go up 5, 6, and 7% a year. I have a very simple observation. If you expect me to stay under a 2%, I'm game. But don't drive my cost by 5, 6, and 7% higher, because in order for me to satisfy those costs, I have to cut things here that people here in Rockland County have worked for, have earned. Why am I cutting those things for? Why don't you stay under the cap too? This is what we all can do well. So that's my speech on mandates, for what it's worth. Illegal housing. I have a particular issue with folks who, in my view, are nothing but criminals. These are slumlords who risk people's lives, children, families who, by and large, are the ones who have the least voice. These are the poorest among us. And then the firefighters who are volunteers, whether they're volunteer or not, it wouldn't really matter. But those are the firefighters who respond to a fire to protect lives. And they go into a house that's a cape. And they're in a fire, fully involved fire, they make a turn to get out. And guess what? There's a wall there. That wall's not supposed to be there. They get trapped. This has to stop. I was told when I ran for office, and I first came into office, that county level government cannot intercede in these type of issues. Now, my mother would tell you this. Don't ever tell me, no, I can't. That just makes things very, very difficult. So I'm very blessed, again, I mentioned before, my deputy county executive is in the room in the back. We have a tremendous county attorney, his name is Thomas Humback. I'm very proud of the work he has done. He found a legal way for the county of Rockland, the county government, to intercede into these areas, and it's called the sanitary code with the New York the Department of Health Code. We have been out where some of these slumlords have been getting $250 fines. One of them got a $31,000 fine. It's $2,000 per violation per day. That is what we can hit them with. And now it's all starting to come. We've done this already. I'm watching this all come up now, and they get hit with these large fines. And then they pay them. They don't pay, we'll put a lien in their house. We're utilizing every tool at our disposal to go after these slumlords. My goal is not to throw people out of their homes. In fact, we haven't had a displacement yet, because I want to make slumlords landlords. I love the American way. You're allowed to make money. That's what's great about this country. Go out, you work hard, make a few bucks. It does not entitle you to put people's lives at risk. And I have been saying this for a while. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Well, when happened about a month ago in Nyack on that's Squadron Boulevard.
Depew.
Sorry?
Depew Avenue, I think it was.
Right up to Pew in Nyack. A woman died in a fire, and there were 4 families in this one family home. Okay, and to see it, I actually was at the scene. To see a room in a basement with no egress, next to a boiler with a smoke detector pulled out, and you see children's things all over it. That's just beyond the pale. For me, as a former NYPD officer, that gets me angry, all right? I said before, and I will say it again here, I'll use every tool at my disposal. We already have the IRS and the State Department of Taxation and Finance on this. Anytime and again, I'm hiring retired detectives now from the Bronx. Now, even those Bronx detectives know they don't miss a trick. And we're bringing them in, and they're going out on these inspections. And when they come up with evidence, they will use that evidence against the slumlord. Again, I want the slumlords to become landlords. Provide safe housing. Do not take advantage of people, especially people who have no voice. That to me is beyond my understanding. And do not risk our firefighters. That is ridiculous. These people are putting their lives on the line for all of us. The least we can do is to do our best to make sure they're safe. So it's something that's been working, is going to be working very well. And lastly, I want to cover welfare fraud. You've read a lot about investigations and trying to track people down, and there is a good aggressive effort that's done by Steve Hamilton with DSS and Tom Zuckerberg on DA to go after cheats. This is your money. We're a good county. Somebody needs a hand, we give them a hand. That's the one thing I've seen for years in this county. I've been in since 1983. It's a beautiful county. That's what we're like. All right, I think that's great. But I have a problem with people thieving that money from us. It's wrong. All right, so we have an aggressive criminal approach to this, but we have to understand the dynamics of this. If I go and chase, if we do cases, all right, and we find somebody, we arrest them, we try to recover the money. The lion's share of that money goes back to the state. We cannot claim it here for a local value. But in order to chase them down, I have to hire local investigators. So I'm spending all this money to chase down someone who's thieving our county and you. And then when I catch them, the money goes to the state of New York. And all that doesn't work. We focus on front-end detection here at Rockland County. And what that means is when you first come to us, we ask every question we can, all right, to make sure that your application is meritorious, that it's legitimate, it's legal. If there's any problems, we're going to define it early on. So we don't let you get $5, $10, $20, $30, $50, $40, $60,000 from us. We want to stop you now. All right, so that's our effort. And we've saved right now about $2.3 million over the past 21 months by taking that approach. And that's a net number because we stopped them at the front door before they got their money and kept on going. I'll give you a quick example of what we found. Now we all know with Medicaid, you know, you're older, you have some issues, and you want to get long-term health care. You have to spend everything. There's a 5-year look back now. The only thing you're going to keep is your home. You know, and that's just the way it is. That does not apply in other applications. We had a woman come in who was asked a bunch of questions about, what does she do and everything else. The issue of the bank account came up, and she brought her bank records, and she had $325,000 in the bank, and she's coming public assistance. So the question was asked of her was, well, why not use some of that money to offset the cost you're going through now? Oh no, that's for my kids' education. Now, maybe it's me, but I would never go to anybody, and I usually compare. I actually had a conversation at dinner one night with an employee in Rockland County. What's wrong with that? I said, let me put it to you in my terms, okay? I get laid off. I go next door to my neighbor Steve. I've known Steve since 1983. Good guy. Steve, I got laid off. I'm out of work. Okay. What do you need? It's the first thing a Rockland County person is going to say. What do you need? What can I do to help you, especially your friend or a neighbor? Well, could you give me $100? Yeah, no problem. Here. He said, but wait a second. Don't you have like $350,000 in the bank? But yeah, but I want to save that for later. It's ridiculous. And the state of New York allows this stuff. You just read recently where you had folks who were getting unemployment benefits, not even in this country. Start doing things such as insisting an IP address be sourced in New York State before you have an application online. There are a lot of things that we've asked, and I will give the legislature credit. The legislature did come up with a number of strategies that I initially endorsed, and they supported me in this, and we sent them off to the governor and to our state representatives. We have to get to a place where if you are in need, you have an issue, you need help, you need something, that's fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to help our neighbors. But don't steal our money. I sound like pre-Barrera right now. Don't steal our money. I mean, this is ridiculous. You're taking advantage of us, and as your county executive, that's something I'm going to allow. If I could stop it, I will. And I'm going to keep on doing that. Other than that, I think I've covered a lot of ground here, but why don't we bring some questions?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is about county roads. Your plans to upkeep and improve roads like Town Line Road and other roads with paving in this area of the county, are you working to do that?
Yes, we are. One of the first things I said when I came into office, I went to Skip Pizzetti, who was our highway superintendent. I said, the least people expect in this county are good roads for the taxes they pay. If you look at our county roadways, and one of the problems we've had, you hear a lot of debate about micro seal and the different ways that they pave roads. The problem they had, there was a period of time where there was a certain aggregate that was put down. It was, they were trying to do something a little more eco-friendly or whatever, and they changed the percentages after 2 or 3 years. So you can imagine the ones they put down now are causing surface problems as it comes up, basically. So we went back and we identified all those roads. Those are the roads we basically dug up and we milled down far enough to get all this old stuff out. But if you look at your county roadways, we've made some significant strides in getting those county roads squared away and get them fixed. It's something I am proud of. I really am, because I think I have these low profile tires, which I didn't know when I bought the car. They blow out if you look at them the wrong way. These little thin little tires. So I'm very sensitive to blowouts because it's happened more than once to me. So it's something, if you look at Strawtown Road, New Hampstead Road, I think Town Line Road,
Ocean Road Bridge.
Ocean Road Bridge.
Montebello Road Bridge.
Yeah.
Main Street, Stony Point.
Yep. A lot of these roads have been done already, and we're going to continue to do that, because again, I think that's something that you should expect, and that's an investment. My whole approach to infrastructure is that even though we have all this money to pay back, believe it or not, our debt ratio is not that high. All right, so my approach is, I didn't do the harbor garage. I want to do a new harbor garage this year. We can't afford it. I know you don't hear politicians tell you this. We can't afford it this year. We just can't afford the debt. So we're putting it off for at least a year. But we can invest in our roads, and it's critical we invest in our infrastructure, because what we don't do now will be done by our children and our grandchildren at the cost of 4 to 5 times of what we're going to pay now. We have low interest rates. I think we have a responsibility as the adults in the rooms to do the right thing now, so our kids aren't paying these bills. We did enough wrong over the last number of years that we almost went broke. We're looking to turn that around now, and that's what the effort is. But when you have infrastructure work, it just seems to me it makes sense. Take advantage of low interest rates, the ability to borrow. It's truly an investment. We're not borrowing for operational expenses. We're borrowing for roads, which is something that's going to be around for a long time. We're doing it the right way, and whatever road it is, either we're just going to pave it or we're going to mill it and then pave it to make sure it lasts. And that's what we're looking to do right now. So it's something that I'm being very aggressive about, and we'll continue to do so.
Question on labor contracts dealing with the county workforce. What are your plans on settling contracts with county employees? Most unions are out of contract 5 years.
Right.
Any money budgeted to settle these contracts?
We are engaged in conversations now, and the one thing I do want to say is I recognize the successes we have had in my 22 months in office are not just me or my staff or my department heads. They are sourced in every working person in our county government, including every employee. I have had conversations with the CSEA. I did inherit, most of the contracts ran out the day before I came into office. How lucky can I get? Some have been out for 5 years. Our corrections, our sheriffs, our highway department, 3 most notable I can think of. look, it is frustrating to see that. I was a New York City cop. You ever hear the phrase zeros for heroes? That's what happened with us. I didn't like that at all. At all. All right? When I see people who are doing the job and helping us get out of this mess, they deserve remuneration. All right? But again, we were nearly broke. We still have significant challenges ahead. We have done well the last 2 years. We do have a surplus this year. All right? I'm a firm believer in sharing. All right? So the discussions have been going on. In fact, there were discussions today with Larry Sparber, the CSEA, my negotiating staff, to try to hammer out something that will return some of the funds that we've saved because of the good work of our employees. And we have to understand that we're still in a ginger area going forward for a year or two, all right? But we're trying to do the best we can by our employees. And again, they're the ones who make it happen. I can wave my hands all I want, but the reality is nothing gets done unless the department head speaks to the people who work under him or her, and they get it taken care of. So I do recognize that, and we are trying to come up with something this year, because any surplus you have in a given year disappears on January 1st of next year. So we're trying to do what we can do within the context of what we've done successfully to share some of that with our employees, because frankly, they have earned it. I will say this too, because some people think all county employees are lazy. I'm sorry, these are my employees. These are people who work for me. I'm very proud of what they do. All right? Understand that we had over 3,000 employees seven plus years ago. We are now down to 1,659 people, if this budget is accepted. 1,659 from over 3,000. They are still getting the job done for you. All right? I will praise good work. I will deal with poor work. It's the way I am as a boss. That's never going to change. But you should be very, very proud of the work that has been done by our county workers in many different areas. Just give it one thought. You're out in January and it snows. You know something? I've been up in a snowplow. Not driving, they wouldn't let me do that. But I've been up in a snowplow with our drivers to see what it's like. And I'll tell you something, this is not easy work. You got a 36-hour shift. It's not easy. All right, so again, we're trying to do the best we can under trying circumstances. We don't have the foundation yet to share more, but we want to share some with our workers, because they've earned it.
And one last question, and would not be a town hall without a Tappan Zee Bridge question. What can you do to keep the toll low without a Tappan Zee Bridge, the new Tappan Zee Bridge?
I think advocacy is the most critical thing. I have said for a number of years now that when it was first, a $15 toll was first announced, I wasn't even a county executive, I was a legislator. August of 2012. I said, unacceptable. Unacceptable. Now, it's easy to say no. Okay. How about alternatives? Did you know that 94% of the tolls on the thruway go to the thruway operations? That's a positive thing. Do you know that your tolls also go to support the canal system in upstate New York? What water has to do with the tolls is beyond me, but somewhere along the line, the state legislature came up with this wonderful idea of using your tolls to take care of the 424-mile canal system. Now, that's happens in Albany a lot, because now they take that money and they use it someplace else, okay? So one thing they have to do is they have to stop that, number one, return all that money to its proper place, which is the people who are paying tolls, put it back in the Thruway Authority. That's number one. You want to fund the canal system, make a separate authority. I really couldn't care less, but stop taking our money, and bear in mind, I was a commuter for 50 years. Stop taking our money here on the roadways and putting it into the water. That's ridiculous. We hear a lot about consolidation. Do you know we have a bridge authority and a thruway authority? We have two authorities. I-84, Newbury Beacon Bridge, a different authority. It's a bridge authority. Why two? Why not have one? Why not consolidate? Now, the same people took about consolidation when I opened my mouth and said this. Oh, well, wait a second. We don't want to consolidate our area. No, you should. I'll give you a little surprise. Do you know that 40% of the tolls for the Tappan Zee Bridge goes to thruway operations? But now that we need a new bridge, guess what? The thruway says, we don't want to put any money into the Tappan Zee Bridge. Seriously? You were taking our money for all these years, how about put something back? The Tappan Zee Bridge, or the New York Bridge, is the largest construction project in the history of New York State. In the history of the state. We need more than loans from the federal government. We built a bridge to nowhere in Alaska. A bridge to nowhere. And we got a tip loan here in Rockland County. That's unacceptable. I hear a lot about getting breaks for Rockland and Westchester residents, which is fine, that's great. But let's understand something. Government needs to understand that they can create a mess, that people will march with their feet based upon the decisions you make. And I'll give you a perfect example. We have to all agree on something. The gas in New York State is better than in Jersey, right? Is the gas in Rockland County better than Jersey? Of course it is. Everybody's looking at me like I say, of course it is. It has to be better. We pay more for it. And it's so good, we have to pump it ourselves. Why is the gas, government taxed the daylights out of it, created a complete mess where half a gas station shut down, and now gas stations are just trying to make ends meet. And it's beyond the old 30 cents difference. Now they have to add more just to pay the rent, pay the utilities, pay the taxes. They've destroyed it. Government destroyed the entirety of it all. You can't have that happen again. If you are from Connecticut or Westchester County, you're coming to the Palisades Center Mall, which is about 20% of our entire sales tax revenue. That's a lot of money. Sales tax revenue says we don't have to get property tax revenue. That's a good thing, right? Okay. You come to a bridge, it's a $15 toll. And you go, you know something? I'm going to hang a left, go south, and go to Ridge Hill in Yonkers. Why am I going to go over that bridge for? This is an economic issue in so many levels. So it is a, oh, by the way, the comparison, how many people will say, oh, well, the George Washington Bridge is whatever, $9, $13. I lost track. I just know I go there, I get to repay my Easy Pass account every 3 days. It's like $13, $14. They'll say, well, the George Washington Bridge is $13, $14. The bridges in the city are like $10. Right? Heard this argument, right? Nonsense. Nonsense. And I'm going to tell you what. The Port Authority bridges have significant real estate, World Trade Center, airports attached to it, number one. The bridges in the city, most of that money goes to the subway system. We don't have that here on the Tappan Zee Bridge or the New York Bridge. We don't have that situation. There's only one, and when you hear these comparisons by people, they're trying to tell you, well, does it make sense? This makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? After all, the bridge in New York City, the George Washington Bridge is $13. Makes sense, right? No. There's only one of the bridge that goes from Rockland to Westchester. Can you name it? Anybody know the bridge that goes from Rockland to Westchester besides the Tappan Zee Bridge? Bear Mountain Bridge. How much is the Bear Mountain Bridge?
$1.50.
$1.50. Veronica?
Yeah.
$1.50. It's $1.25 if you got Easy Pass. The TZ is $5. As far as I'm concerned, we're paying too much. That bridge is primarily people going from Rockland to Westchester, some to the Bronx, 7% to Manhattan. It's a very small number of people that go to the city. Do not compare it to the George Washington Bridge, and do not let people talk you into that. It's a trap. Be combative. Be like me. It's a lot. Say no. It's ridiculous nonsense. If that bridge toll goes to $15, we're going to get hit, and get hit in a way that the politicians will allow you not to see. Because what's going to happen, your sales tax revenue is going to go down. Your prices are going to go up. That truck that goes over to George Washington, goes over to Tappan Zee Bridge, you think that truck is going to pay $15? That's be like, I think the George Bridge is like $90, $80 for a truck. Guess who pays for that? We do. The cost of business goes up. Who pays for it? The customer pays for it. These are all hidden taxes. You know your O&R bill, 25% of it is taxes. So you want to choke the O&R guy, but not for nothing. State of New York is doing a pretty good job of it too. So these are the things that are hidden from you. All right, and I'm very open and honest about this, because I want you to know this. It's important you know this. So those are some of the debates you're going to hear with the Tappan Zee Bridge. Again, we need federal help. If you can build a bridge in Northern Alaska, you build a bridge in New York State, the Empire State, the greatest state in this country.
That's it for the written questions. If nothing else, thanks for coming. We'll archive the video on our website, rocklandgov.com, and I'm sure you'll stick around for a minute or two.
Oh, absolutely, we'll stay here.
Question.
I want to thank all of you for coming,
Okay, we'll do this pretty much every month or so during the clement weather. We don't drag you out in February, you know, but we're gonna continue doing this. And the advantage of not just having folks come down, I appreciate you all coming out tonight, but being online and being able to speak to the people at home is a great thing. This is what this government is doing. This is what you elected me to do. You asked me to go out and fix this county, to be honest about it, to tell you what's going on, and that's what you get. And it will continue to get that as long as I'm county executive, which, by the way, I already said 2 terms. And I'll say it again, I self-terminated myself to 2 terms. So if you choose to re-elect me in 2017, I'll serve 1 more term. Because if I haven't fixed this in 8 years, you're going to get somebody else. But we're going to fix this in less than 8 years, I guarantee it. Thank you very, very much for coming.
And as the county executive Dave said, we do about 6 a year. We do 2 in the day and then 4 at night, 2 or 3 in the spring, and then 2 or 3 at the end of the year in the fall. And always open to the public. You're welcome to join us. And if you need my email address for any follow-up questions or issues, please give it to me before you go.
Again, thank you. This is my last stop of the night, which I guess we can figure out it's about 8 o'clock. But I had a wonderful afternoon today, and I had a better evening, so I want to thank you very much. Have a good evening.